Hey guys, how's everyone doing this week? My name is Nick Pecos. My channel and shop is a Pecos Aesthetic. Thank you for joining me. In this week's video, I'm gonna talk about how I build this accent wall with reclaimed lumber. I'm gonna talk about where you can find reclaimed lumber, how you can get it cheap. I'm gonna talk about what supplies you need to do this build. I'm gonna talk about how to prep your wall. I'm gonna talk about how to find the studs. I'm gonna talk about whether or not you wanna use adhesive for the build. And I'm gonna go over how to cut odd shaped pieces using a contour gauge. This is a beginner-friendly project, guys. This is going to be part of a new playlist I'm putting together called Beginner-Friendly Projects. I hope you enjoy. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about where you can get your lumber for a project like this. Not everybody's familiar with working with reclaimed materials, and I wasn't when I first started using them, and it was a bit of a challenge to find out where I could get them and different options of where I could get them. So I'm gonna open up my laptop here and show you two options. One is a cheaper option, one is a more expensive option. The first is Facebook Marketplace, and I've talked about this in previous videos for finding cheap supplies. This is a great resource to find reclaimed lumber cheap. So I'm going to type in reclaimed wood, and you see all kinds of stuff comes up. It's going to be cheaper than this next option. If you're going to have a lot of people, you can set it up so that you're searching based on price, or you're searching based off of how close it is to you. It's a really good resource. I've found reclaimed lumber in the past that has been really good. I've gone to different locations sometimes where they're not really selling what they're showing, and it kind of turns out to be a fail. But you can get really good deals on here. The other option, if you don't want to deal with any of that, is just going to a store that specializes in reclaimed wood. The trade-off here is you're going to pay a lot more. This is a place near me. This place is called Bingham Lumber. It's about 30 minutes away from me. They have a showroom that has any kind of reclaimed lumber you could possibly want. It's so cool. I'm like a kid in a candy store. When I go in here, they literally let you just walk around the store, and you can pick out wood that you want. They have racks. They have all different kinds of reclaimed lumber, colored lumber, gray lumber, painted lumber, beams, mantles, all kinds of stuff you can pick out by the board. They're really cool. So you can look for a shop like that to get your reclaimed products as well. And you can also ask around by word of mouth. All right, so I want to talk about supplies that you're going to need for this project. One of the reasons I like this project, one of the reasons I'm putting it in the Simple Projects Build playlist, is because you really don't need a lot of tools to do it. All you need is your materials, and then these tools you see laid out here. First thing you need is your actual lumber, and I'm going to talk about that. If I haven't already previously, where to find lumber, where you can find it cheap, where you can find reclaimed lumber. Nailing your pieces to the wall, I prefer look at that, leftover adhesive on my hand now. That's great. I prefer a finish nailer. You can use a brad nailer or a finish nailer. They're both good for this type of project. Brad nailers have a little bit smaller head, so they have a little bit less holding power, but they're also a little less visible because the head's smaller. I like more holding power, especially with this reclaimed lumber, because it's not perfectly square and can get a little wonky. So I use a 16 gauge finish nailer. Just know you also can use an 18 gauge brad nailer if you want. So in my 16 gauge finish nailer, I'm using 2-inch 16 gauge nails. That gives you enough. These boards are roughly 3/4 inch thick, getting through the 3/4 inch drywall. That's roughly 1.5 inches, and then you get a 1/2 inch buried into the stud. So 2-inch nails at the minimum. You probably even want to go 2.5. Speed square, marking your lumber. Caulking gun with liquid nails, construction adhesive. If you decide to use adhesive on the wall, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Star Bond. Wow, I'm blanking. I forget the name of this glue. That's funny. This glue and an accelerator. It speeds up the dry time to like 5 seconds. So you put your glue on, put the accelerator on, and you get an instant bond, so it's really good. Tape measure, obviously. your angle gauge, and this is going to be, I needed to use this because I'm doing my project on the stairs. There's angles I need to find. If you're doing this on a square wall, you're not going to need an angle finder. Contour gauge, this is to mark any odd sections, and there's going to be a part in this video that talks about how you use this to scribe onto pieces of wood. Got your pencil and belt sander. Wow, can't think today. And the belt sanders, I'll show you why you're going to need that in a little bit. In addition, you're also going to need a miter saw. And I use the Bosch compound miter saw. I have a separate video on that. I'll put a link up here if you want to check it out. It's a great saw. And that's all you need for supplies, guys. This is what you need to get going, and this is all you need. So in the supplies section, I talked about liquid nails construction adhesive, and this is something you can make the decision on your own to use. With reclaimed lumber, the boards are very old and they have a tendency to bow, cup, not be like, lumber you buy from the hardware store that's just been freshly milled and it's perfectly square. So I like to use adhesive because sometimes the finished nails don't have enough holding power to hold them flat against the wall. So I use liquid nails construction adhesive. The problem with that is, it's not really a problem, but something you need to think about for the future is when you go to dismantle this wall, if you ever want to dismantle it, you're basically going to be ripping the drywall off with the boards because the construction adhesive is so strong. So if you ever want to redo that wall, you're basically going to have to replace the drywall on that wall. So something to think about. If you don't want to deal with that, don't use construction adhesive, but you're gonna have a hard time using reclaimed lumber without adhesive. All right, so I'm gonna talk about how I find studs in the wall now. The reason you wanna find the studs is because when you're going to secure your pieces to the wall, if you just use your finish nailer, plug in nails into the drywall and don't hit studs, there's no holding power. They're just going to pop out. Part of the reason why I like to use adhesive too. You need to find your studs in the wall and then mark them with lines so you know where to put your finish nails. A lot of people will use a stud finder, and I did that when I first started out in woodworking, and they work okay. If you spend a lot of money to get a really good gauge, they work better. An old timer woodworker shared this tip with me years ago. That's so funny sounding. And I'm so glad he did, because this method that I use works like a charm, and all it costs is like $5 for you to buy some magnets. So you go on Amazon and you get yourself some rare earth magnets. And I'm going to show you what they are right now. If I can get them apart. They're hard. All right, well, they're really strong. I'm not going to take them apart. Here's 5 of them. They're 3/4 inch in diameter, and like I said, you can get them on Amazon. You can get a pack of 10 for like, I don't know, a couple of bucks. And what you do is you take these and you put them on the wall, and they're so strong, they will be magnetized to the stud screws in your drywall. So wherever they've put screws into the drywall to hold them into studs, these will bind, and then there's a stud right behind it. So what I do is I put 3 or 4 of them in a straight line, enough so that I can get a straight line. I take a long straight piece of wood, put it on my line, and I make a line with a pencil. I do that all the way up the wall. This is the best way I have ever used to find studs. It works so quick. These magnets are so strong, and you don't have to mess around with the stud finder. And when I was using a stud finder, 90% of the time it would tell me there's a stud, there's no stud. Like, I hate working with those things. These things are awesome. So again, this is just a video of me showing how I go about that process, so I hope it helps. So on the end of this wall, I was a little bit worried about the ends of the board showing. I didn't want just end grain showing. I thought it would look a little awkward. So what I did was I cut a 45-degree miter on the end of these boards, folded them over, and it makes the board look continuous, and that way you get kind of a cool effect. I want to show you guys how I do that now. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is put our saw at 45 degrees in this direction, and we're going to cut 45-degree angle. Then we're going to take the saw, put it 45 degrees in the opposite direction. So this is going to be the end that's sticking out. Now you take that 45-degree angle that you already cut, your saw's back at 90 degrees. You have your end. Now you take your CA glue, dab a little bit on the end there. Take your accelerator. Take your piece. Put it on the end, and you're holding for about 10 seconds. Microphone came off, sorry. And then that's what you're left with. You're left with a piece that makes it look like the wood is wrapping around. On the back side, you're left with a little bit of a lip. That's why you take your belt sander and sand it down flush, and then that way you can install it. Glass board, and it's going to go right there. On that side, it's 7 inches exactly to the ceiling. On this side, it's about 6 7/8 to the ceiling. So I'm going to cut a little bit of a taper. I'm going to show you guys that now. All right, so I know this board needs to be 46 7/8 inches long. I'm going to mark that. Great, and I know this board needs to be from the top 7 inches. So I'm going to mark that. I got my mark there. Then down at this end, it needs to be 6 7/8. So 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. Now it's marked there. So then I'm going to take my track. I'm going to put it on the end of the board. And these are my clamps that are going to hold my board down and my track where I want it. So I'm going to take the first side, put the track end where I want it, can see my mark right there. And then on this side, find my mark, put the edge of the board on it. Lock it down. Good. So you can see, I got my track on one end, my track's on the other end. That's going to give me a tapered cut. Now all I got to do is make the cut. All right. All right, looks like a pretty good cut. Make sure our measurements are good. So again, we wanted 7 on this side, right on 7. On this side, we wanted 7 1/8, right on. And that is the final board up there. The tapered board at 7 inches on one end, 7 1/4 inches on the other. It's pretty darn good. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I enjoyed making it. Like I said, it's a beginner-friendly product. Doesn't take a lot of skill or tools to complete it, and you get a really beautiful result. I've been getting a lot of comments that people want to see more beginner-friendly projects, so hopefully this fits the bill. Please comment on this video. Let me know what your thoughts are on the video. Let me know if it was easy to follow, if you feel like this was a good tutorial for you. DIY projects, beginner-friendly projects that you want to see in the future. Your feedback really is important to me, and it really helps dictate what videos I'm going to make in the future. Also, if you're into the beginner-friendly DIY projects, please check out this video on a console table I did out of a live edge piece. It's only a few simple steps. Again, you get a beautiful result, not a lot of tools required. So I highly encourage you to check out this video as well. Thank you, guys.